You know, we wake up and we hear. Growing up with children and, you know, learning to speak properly, you never realize that the hearing is so important. It can be so involved.
I started realizing when I was teaching children in public schools with various degrees of hearing loss, with parents who had different ideas about what they wanted to have as the educational goals for their children, I started figuring out that all of these parents didn't get the same information, and it became very important to me to make sure that the parents started to have unbiased information given to them.
The deaf community is not just about sign languages, also about oral and spoken language, it's about human speech, and it's about hearing loss, hearing aids. We are diverse.
I think I was a little closer if you use an onion as an example, you know, the layers, and they say that, you know, the center of the onion is the deaf community, you know, deaf, culturally deaf. It was the attitude towards deafness. Some of my sisters, their attitudes toward deafness wasn't that great. That was my opinion.
We are more than just sign, we are more than key speech. There may be some who may hang on to that mentality of, you know, the culture, well, that's the culture, but that's not the community. You know, we have different cultures within the community.
The next layer would be a sibling or a deaf child or a hearing child of a deaf adult, and then it goes out from there to where you can't get in that center. And I thought, a cochlear implant? Okay, you've got to be kidding me. I'm thinking, you really want me to think about getting a cochlear implant? My answer was flat out, no. Hell no.
So I feel like I really appreciate deaf culture for what it is, but I'm not part of the deaf culture because I didn't grow up with it. I don't sign well, but I can interact with them. I can share their values, so I'm able to understand well enough what they believe in. I may not agree with them, but I can argue with them, you know, what the ideas are.
I'm thinking, you want me to get a cochlear implant so that I could hear my own children's voice. I mean, that cut deep. As a deaf person, her perspective and the way she approached me with that hurt. I didn't view it as a disability.
We were in shock. We were. Certainly the test had to be wrong, you know, etc. And they would retest Tanner, and he flunked it again. So we knew that he had a hearing loss, but we did not know to the extent.
But, you know, the shock hit in then, and the denial right then, probably within the hospital.
They would test to see if I had any hearing loss. And of course I did. And then that's when my parents were shocked and to find out, and very upset with the other experts saying that I had this and this, and my hearing was perfectly normal. So I'm very grateful that they got a second opinion, a third opinion, just to make sure.
But I do know that when she found out I was deaf, she was heartbroken. She had a hard time dealing with it. She told me that she wanted to drive off a bridge. You know, she felt like in the end of her life because what she knew of deafness was that no functioning, you know, people, which was not the case. You know, there are quite a few deaf people that are successful.
Of course there was denial because, you know, you want the best for your kid. You don't want your kid to be any different than, you know, anybody else.
We would hear the stories from the audio-verbal therapists that a lot of the parents just ignore that there's, you know, no hearing loss with their child, that it's not a problem.
There's some parents that do go through the denial of it and don't take that next step and get their kids' hearing fixed.
The hardest thing we've ever done, I believe, was to leave Ashley that first day. The house parent was wonderful, and she just assured us that everything would be fine. But when we got back in the car to start home, it was just, our hearts were just broken.
I tell you that it's heartbreaking to watch him come to you with his hearing aids and say, my battery doesn't work anymore. And you change the batteries and he can't hear. You know, I mean, that's a heartbreaking thing because you want to be able to fix it.
So I just remember being kind of confused, being angry maybe at times too, because being as though I couldn't fit in, you know, in certain areas, I remember just kind of pushing it and tucking it away, you know, to where I couldn't share this with the people that I could talk to verbally, and I didn't want to share it with my parents because it was about them.
But as far as like, I think the pain comes from grieving, anger. I mean, yeah, you get mad, but it's not like we're mad at God or Tanner or us, genetics, our parents. They're the ones that, you know, made us. A little bit. We can be mad at them. Came from the Hosley side.
Yeah, it came from her side.
I went through different stages, of course. It's, at some point in time, it's pointed out that your mom is different. Why does your mom talk different? Why can she not hear what we're saying? So I'm sure most children of deaf adults go through the stages of maybe a little bit of embarrassment. I wish mom could hear. You know, I wish people didn't pay attention to the way she talks.
We went through some big time emotions as far as why our baby.
They are also dealing with, are they deaf because this is something I did? Is this because I smoked pot in high school? Or, I mean, these parents, some of them were having so much just so much struggle because they were grieving because something was wrong with their child.
You know, I became frustrated and was kind of, I guess, rebellious at a certain time in my life because there became a point where I was angry that my parents couldn't hear. I was frustrated because I didn't know where I belonged. I didn't know where I fit in.